here and listen to these guys all day, I'm telling you.
Shakespeare and reggae.
Shakespeare and reggae, that's what we like. Hey, how are you?
Woo!
We want to thank you for coming to spend a little time with us this afternoon, to let us regale you with stuff that has meant a great deal to us in our lives. And it has been said, I've been quoted many, many times actually, as saying that Star Trek, you have to be of Shakespearean proportion to actually really do justice to the work that we do in Star Trek. And fortunately, my compadres and myself...
That would be me.
That would be him, this little weasel Wayoon. And Vaughn Armstrong playing more characters than anybody else on Star Trek.
Woo! Yeah.
You got your cheering section right here, Vaughn.
Yay.
Right. And your humble servant, Casey Biggs here. We've all done... we've all had a great fortune to be able to play this kind of theater throughout our lives. And it's thrilling for us to be able to share some of our favorite pieces with you. And what do we call this? We call this What Shakespeare Leaves Behind. Like the last episode of DS9 was called...
What we
leave
left
behind.
Or leave.
Is anybody out here not familiar with Shakespeare's work? Shakespeare, Klingon. Okay, it's like Hamlet in Klingon.
There is a Hamlet, Klingon.
Yeah,
They made it in a Klingon language, I think. Yeah.
They did. And what's thrilling about it, for those of you who know, just a little teeny bit of a history lesson here. Back in the day, in the 1500s, they always did these shows at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. No scenery, no lights, nothing but the imagination to take you there. And what we thought was would be wonderful is to give you a little piece of the kind of work that the way Shakespeare set the stage. You know, what was so exciting for us in our shows is that you didn't have to do anything. You know, I was a Cardassian. All I had to do was stand there and let the costume do the work, basically. Well, no, a little bit more than that, but... what is thrilling, because all of us have either worked or taught and directed this kind of work, and we just wanted to share a little bit of that with you. So, as a beginning and an intro, the beginning of Henry V, there's a character called the Chorus, who comes out and sets the stage. So what he does, because most of you know, I mean, there were no women on the stage back then, and 98% of the audience couldn't read. So that's why, you know what an iambic pentameter is, right? 10 beats to a line. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. It's weak, strong, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. That was a rhythmic thing that they used in poetry so the audience could get a hold of what they were saying and to do it. So this brilliant piece that I'm going to start off with you is the beginning of Henry V. Somebody comes out on stage by himself in front of, in the Globe Theatre, which was a huge circular stage, if anybody's been to London to see that. And then there was a stage, there was some columns, and that's it. And then the actors. So this character would come out, stand there and look, and he says, "Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of convention. A kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. Then would the warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, leashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment. But pardon, gentles, all, the flat, unraised spirits that have dared bring forth so great an object. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Or may we cram within this wooden O the very casks that did affright the air at Agincourt? Oh, pardon, since a crooked figure may attest in little part 1,000,000, and let us ciphers to this great account on your imaginary forces work. Piece out our imperfections with your thought. Into 1,000 parts, divide one man. Think when we talk of horses that you see them, printing their proud hooves in the receiving earth. For 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings. Carry them here and there, jumping o'er times. Carry them, turning the accomplishment of many years into an hourglass. For the which supply, allow me, chorus to this great history, gently to hear, and haply to judge our play.
Love this speech. Little simple Shakespeare wisdom. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their entrances and their exits, and one man in his time plays many parts. His acts being 7 ages. At first, the infant, mewling and puking in his nurse's arms. Then, the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face creeping like a snail unwillingly to school. And then, the poet, the lover, sighing like a furnace with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. And then the soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like a pard, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble, reputation even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly with good capon lined, full of eyes severe and beard of formal cut, and full of wise saws and modern instances. And so he plays his part. The 6th age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon with spectacles on nose, a pouch on side, and his youthful hose, well saved, now a world too wide for his shrunk shank. And his big manly voice turning again now towards childish treble pipes and whistles in his sound. The last scene of all that ends this strange, eventful history is second. Childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything.
That's the call.
Very good. That went very.
Did you notice?
Speak the speech, I pray you, as I pronounced it to you, trippingly on the tongue. But if you mouth it, as many of our players do, I had as lief the town crier spoke my lines. Nor do not saw the air too much with your hands thus, but use all gently. For in the very torrent, tempest, and as I may say, whirlwind of your passion, you must acquire and beget a temperance that may give it smoothness. Oh, it offends me to the soul to hear a robustious periwig-pated fellow tear a passion to tatters, even to rags, to split the ears of groundlings, who for the most part are capable of nothing but inexplicable dumb shows and noise. I would have such a fellow whipped, for o'erdoing termagant. It out Herod's Herod. I pray you avoid it. But be not too tame neither. But let your own discretion be your tutor, and suit the action to the word to the action, with this special observance, that you o'erstep not the modesty of nature. For anything so o'erdone is from the purpose of the play, whose end is to hold, as it were, the mirror up to nature. Now this overdone or come tardy off will make the unskillful laugh, but it cannot but make the judicious grieve. Oh, there be players I have seen play and heard others praise, and that highly, who have so strutted and billowed that I had thought that nature's journeyman had made men and not made them well. They imitated humanity so abominably. I pray you, go, get you ready. Avoid it.
Now, I have to say, that is some of the best acting advice anybody ever got. And he wrote this in the 1500s. Right?
That's right. That's
very good.
Shakespeare's idea of what you're supposed to do.
Do not saw the air thus. Like this, right? So, can we, lighting guys, can we just take the back down a little bit so we focus this down a little more? If you can, whatever.
Casey, I will be.
Oh, yeah, he's got things. He's got to go to the bathroom, probably. So, that was a little bit of how Shakespeare set the stage, right? And we're going to move into the little, oh, look, we're getting a little romantic now. Oh. I like it. Yeah, don't you like it? It's a little more romantic?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So we thought we would do for you one of the greatest romances ever written, that has been copied over and over and over again. West Side Story was based on what?
Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet. And so we thought we would just give you a little piece of some Romeo and Juliet right now, all right? Oh, that's a good one. Two households, both alike in dignity from Fairbrother, but that's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing. So, Romeo, having gone to this incredible party, and he sees Juliet. He falls immediately in love, when just before that he was in love with, what was her name? I don't know.
Rosalind.
Many people.
Rosalind, right? Got some Shakespeare scholars over here. That's good. We better not screw up, right? So he finds out where she lives, and it's sort of like, the Sharks and the Jets. The Capulets and the Montagues, they were just, it's like the, what are those guys in the Appalachians? The,
Hatfields and McCoys.
Say again?
Hatfields and McCoys.
The Hatfields and McCoys. See, that was ripped off from Romeo and Juliet. So anyway, he climbs over all of the trees and the hedges and this and that, and then all of a sudden he looks and he goes, "What's soft? What light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief that thou, her handmaiden, is far more fair than she. Or be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off." "It is my lady. It is my love. Oh, that she knew she were." She speaks. Yes, she says nothing. What of that? Her eye discourses. "I will answer it. 'Tis not to me she speaks. I am too bold. Two of the fairest stars in all the heavens, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres. What if her eyes were there, and they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars as daylight doth a lamp. Her eyes in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she lays her hand upon her cheek. Were I but a glove upon that hand, that I may touch that cheek.
Me.
She speaks. Oh, speak again, bright angel. For thou art as glorious to this night being o'er my head as a winged messenger of heaven.
Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet.
Shall I hear more, or shall I speak now?
'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, though not a Montague. What is Montague? It's not a hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face. Oh, be some other name belonging to a man. What's in a name? That which we call a rose, by any other name would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called. Retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title. Romeo, doff thy name, and for thy name which is no part of thee, take all myself.
I take thee at thy word. Call me but love, and I'll be new baptized. Henceforth I will never be Romeo.
What man art thou that thus miscreated in night, so stumblest upon my counsel?
By a name I know not how to tell thee who I am, dear love, because my name is hateful to me. Had I written it, I would tear the word.
My ears had not yet drunk 100 words of thy tongue's uttering, yet I know the sound. Art thou not Romeo and a Montague?
Neither, fair maid, if either thee dislike.
How camest thou hither? Tell me, and wherefore? The orchard walls are high and hard to climb, and the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen should find thee here.
With love's light wings did I o'erperch these walls. For stony limits cannot hold love out, and what love can do, that dares love attempt. Therefore thy kinsmen are of no fear to me.
If they do see thee, they will murder thee.
Alack, there lies more peril in thine eye than 20 of their boats. Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against enmity.
I would not for the world they saw thee here.
I have night's cloak to hide me from their eyes. And but thou love me, let them find me here. My life were better ended by their hate than prolonged wanting thy love.
By whose direction foundst out this place?
By love, that first did prompt me to inquire. He lent me counsel, and I lent him eyes.
Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek for that which thou hast heard me speak tonight. Dost thou love me? I know thou wilt say aye, and I will take thy word. Yet, if thou swearest, thou mayst prove false. At lovers' perjuries, they say, Jove laughs. Oh, gentle Romeo, if thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully.
Lady, by yonder blessed moon I vow that tips with silver all the treetops.
Oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon that monthly changes in her circle orbed, lest that thy love prove likewise variable.
What shall I swear by?
Do not swear at all. Or, if thou wilt, swear by thy gracious self, which is the God of my idolatry, and I'll believe thee.
If my heart's dear love...
Do not swear. Although I joy in thee, I have no joy of this contract tonight. It is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like the lightning. which doth cease to be ere one can say it lightens. Sweet, good night.
Wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied?
And what satisfaction canst thou have tonight?
The exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine.
I gave thee mine before thou didst request it, and yet I have it to give again.
Well, wouldst thou withdraw it? For what purpose, love?
But to be frank, to give it thee again. Yet I wish for the thing I have. My bounty is as boundless as the sea. My love is deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite.
Madam!
Oh, I hear some noise within. Dear love, Juliet! I'm not good nurse. Sweet Montague, be true. Oh, stay but a little while. I will come again.
Oh, blessed night. Being night, all this is but a dream. Too flattering sweet to be substantial.
3 words, dear Romeo, and good night. If that thy bent of love be honorable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow by one that I'll procure to come to thee, where and what time thou wilt perform the rite, and all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my lord, throughout the world. Madam, I come anon. But if thou meanest not well, I do beseech thee, madam, by and by I come. I beseech thee to cease thy strife and leave me to my grief. Tomorrow I will send.
So thrive my soul.
1,000 times. Good night.
1,000 times the worse to want thy light. Love goes toward love as schoolboys from their books, but love from love toward school with heavy looks. My sweet, Romeo, my sweet.
Oh, what o'clock tomorrow shall I send to thee?
By the hour of 9.
I will not fail. 'Tis 20 years till then. I have forgot why I did call thee back.
Well, I will stand here till thou remember it.
And I shall forget to have thee still stand there, remembering how I love thy company.
And I'll stay to have thee still forgetting any other home but this.
It is almost morning. I would have thee gone, and yet no further than a wanton's bird that lets it hop a little from his hand like a poor prisoner into his twisted gyves, and with a silken thread plucks it back again, so loving, jealous of his liberty.
I were that bird.
Sweet, so would I. Yet I should kill thee with much cherishing. Good night. Good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeffrey Combs. And Casey Biggs, ladies and gentlemen. So, as I said, there were no women on stage at the day, so the very first person, and for years and years after that, to play Juliet was a young man.
I just like to say it takes a real man to play a woman.
That's right. Yeah.
I would pay a lot of money to see Jeff Combs play Juliet, let me tell you that. And you know what's interesting to me, just hearing it right now when we were doing it before you, it's fascinating because it's not until you really get to be this age that you really understand what they're going for. Because they were teenagers, you know, they were teenagers, and it takes us years to sort of get the fact how innocent and profound and passionate their love was, rather than just act. And he, if you notice, when you study Shakespeare, it's all about rhythm, 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 rhythm. And the rhythm of these lines just move like this adolescent love, and it's just an exquisite thing to hear. So my only disappointment is that I didn't get to kiss Juliet today. So
No, you can do it.
Jeffrey, go.
Now this scene happened just before that scene. They were these, like he said, they're all teenagers. They're boys and going to this party that is a Capulet party, and these are Montague boys. They've all got swords and everything. And Romeo says to Mercutio, "I had a dream last night that if we go to this party, it's going to be really bad. Something bad's going to happen." And Mercutio wants to go. So he tells him what he thinks about dreams. He says, "Oh, why then, I see Queen Mab hath been with you. Why, she is the fairy's midwife, and she comes in shape no bigger than an agate stone on the forefinger of an alderman, drawn by a team of little atomies athwart men's noses as they lie asleep. Her wagon spokes are made of long spinner's legs, the covers of the wings of grasshoppers, the traces of the moonshine's watery beam, the whip of cricket's bone, the latch of film, the wagoner a small grey-coated gnat, not half so big as a round little worm pricked from the lazy finger of a maid. Her chariot an empty hazelnut, made by the joiner squirrel or old grub, time out of mind the fairies' coachmakers. And in this state she gallops night by night through lovers' brains, and then they dream of love. Or courtiers' knees who dream on curtsies straight, or lawyers' fingers who straight dream on fees, or ladies' lips who straight on kisses dream, which oft the angry Mab with blisters plagues, because their breaths with sweet meats tainted are. Sometimes she gallops o'er a courtier's nose, and then dreams he of smelling out the suit. Sometime comes she with a tight pinch-tail, tickling parson's nose as he lies asleep, and then dreams he of another benefice. Sometimes she driveth o'er a soldier's neck, and then dreams he of cutting foreign throats, of breeches, ambuscados, Spanish blades, of hell's 5 fathoms deep, and then on drums in his ear, at which he starts and wakes, and being thus frighted, swears a prayer or two and sleeps again. This is that very man that plats the manes of horses in the night, and bakes elf locks and foul sluttish hairs, which once untangled, much misfortune bodes. This is the hag when maids lay on their backs, that presses them, learns them first to bear, making them women of good carriage. This is she. True. I talk of dreams, which are the children of an idle brain, begot of nothing but vain fantasy, as thin of substance as the air, and more inconstant than the wind.
Hold on, sir.
Oh my God.
Now, this next scene, testing, this next scene is from one of Shakespeare's early plays, and it's just proof the absolute diversity of Shakespeare. If he were alive today, he could be on the writing staff of a sitcom. And
they could do it at any,
and in any
time frame.
Any time frame. So we've chosen this one to sort of update and make it a little more modern, shall we say. So here we go.
Oh! How now, Romeo? Where runs thou so fast?
Do you know me, sir? Am I Dromio? Am I your man? Am I myself?
Oh, thou art Dromio, thou art my man, thou art thyself.
I am an ass. I am a woman's man, and besides myself.
What woman's man? And how besides thyself?
Marry, sir, besides myself, that I am due to a woman, one that claims me, one that haunts me, one that will have me.
What claim lays she to thee?
Marry, such a claim as you would lay to your horse. Not that she would have me as a beast, but not that I being a beast that she'd have me, but that she, being a very beastly creature, lays claim to me.
What claim lays she?
Mary, sir, she's the kitchen
What is she?
witch. She's a kitchen witch.
Oh.
And all grease. And I know not what use to put her to, but to make a lamp of her and run from her by her own light. I warrant her rags and the tallow in them will burn a pole in winter. Oh. If she lives till doomsday, she'll burn a week longer than the whole world.
What complexion is she?
Swart, like my shoe. But her face is nothing like so clean kept. For why? She sweats. A man may go over shoes in it.
Well, what's her name?
Nell, sir. But her name and 3/4, that's an L. And 3/4 will not measure her from hip to hip.
And she bears some breadth.
No longer from head to foot than from hip to hip. She is spherical. I can find out countries in her.
Well, in what part of her body stands Ireland?
Mary, sir, in her buttocks, because I found it out by the bogs.
Oh. Where's Scotland?
I found it by the barrenness hard in the palm of her hand.
Where France?
Oh, in her forehead, armed and reverted, making war against her hair.
Where England?
Now, I looked for the chalky cliffs, but I could find no whiteness in them. But I guess it stood in her chin by the salt room that ran between it and France.
Where's Spain?
No faith I saw it not, but I felt it hard in her breath.
Where America? The Indies?
Oh, sir, all upon her nose, all or embellished with rubies and carbuncles, sapphires, declining their rich aspect to the breath of Spain, who set whole armados in her nose. Oh.
Where stood Belgium, the Netherlands?
Oh, sir, I did not look so low. To conclude, this dredge, this diviner, laid claim to me, called me Dromio, swore that she was assured to me. She told me what privy marks I had about me, such as the mark on my shoulder, and the mole on my neck, and the great wart on my left arm. That I ran from her, as if she were a witch.
Go, hide thee presently. Post to the road, and if the wind blow any way from shore, I will not harbor in this town tonight.
As from a bear, a man would run for life, so fly I from her that would be my wife. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Jeffrey Combs, ladies and gentlemen. It's hard coming up with such funny lines with stuff like that. What's next, gents?
The histories.
Ah, yeah. So, no one, I believe, really wrote such powerful, inspiring speeches as Shakespeare. Because there's so much of it's about the wars and everything going on there. And in Henry V, they've had this battle. Almost everyone's been dead, and it was based on history, actually. But the king comes out when everybody's dead tired, nearly dead, falling all over, and he has to rally his troops again to nearly sure death and defeat. But he walks out in front of his troops, all of his troops.
But before you begin, the genius of Shakespeare is in the very same play. He gives the counter argument to what you're about to hear, and I will follow up with that. pro and con of war.
Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. Or close up the wall with our English dead. In peace there's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger, stiffen the sinews, conjure up the blood, disguise fair nature with hard-favored rage, lend the eye a terrible aspect. Now set the teeth, stretch the nostril wide, and hold hard the breath, and bend up every spirit to his full height. On! On, you noble English, whose blood is fet from fathers of war-proof. Dishonor not your mothers. Those who you called fathers did beget you. Be copy now to men of grosser blood, and teach them how to war. Let us swear that you are worth your breeding, which I doubt not. For there is not one of you so mean and base that hath not noble luster in your blood. I see you stand like greyhounds at the slip, straining upon the start. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this cry, God for Harry, England, and St. George.
But if the cause be not good, the king himself hath a heavy reckoning to make, when all of those legs and arms and heads chopped off in a battle shall join together on the latter day and cry all, we died at such a place. Some swearing, some crying for a surgeon, some upon their wives left poor behind them, some upon the death stale, some upon the children rawly left. I am afeard there are few die well that die in a battle. For how can they charitably dispose of anything when blood is their argument? Now, if these men do not die well, it will be a black matter for the king that led them to it, who to disobey were against all proportion of subjection.
Wow. Now think of that what you just heard in terms of Vietnam, in terms of Afghanistan, in terms of, you have these people up there pulling all the strings, sending these thousands of people into war. And they say, but that line that you say, it will be a black, what do you say, it'll be a black night for the king?
It will be a black matter.
Black matter.
King who led them to it.
Yeah, see? It's just exquisite. We need to pay attention to these lessons that we are given throughout history and in poetry. Anyway, never mind.
No.
Let us turn now
To the villains. We're going to go to the villains now. Since all of us have played
Since
villains.
we've all played a villain, or once or twice.
Once or twice.
Once or twice.
Yeah. Well, now this one is Iago.
Oh.
One of the greatest villains of all time.
Yes, he is.
And he has just counseled Cassio, the young, honest lieutenant, who is in ill favor with the Moor, to ask Desdemona to go, to ask Desdemona to do him good, put him back in his power. And this is what Iago says after Cassio goes away.
I will, sir.
And what's he then that says I play the villain, when this advice I give is free and honest, probable to thinking, and indeed the course to win the Moor again? For 'tis most easy the inclining Desdemona to subdue in any honest suit. She is as framed, as fruitful as the free elements, and for her to win the Moor again, were it to renounce his baptism, all seals and symbols of redeemed sin, his soul is so enforced to her love that she may make, unmake, do what she list, even as her appetite shall play the god with his weak function. How then am I a villain to counsel Cassio to this parallel course, directly to his good? Oh, divinity of hell! When devils will the blackest sins put on, they do suggest at first with heavenly shows, as I do now. For whiles this honest fool plies Desdemona to repair his fortune, and she for him pleads strongly to the Moor, I'll pour this pestilence into his ear, that she repeals him for her body's lust. And then by how much she strives to do him good, she shall undo her credit with the Moor. So will I turn her virtue into pitch, and out of her own goodness make the net that shall enmesh them all.
What a dastardly son. I mean, Iago is one of the great villains of Shakespeare, the canon. But we're going to do something a little bit, to me, I think is one of the more vicious villains from Richard III.
Oh, no.
And this scene, he's murdered Anne's husband. He's murdered her husband's father, the king. And then Queen Anne, or Lady Anne, is taking the body to the cemetery. And I love Jeff Combs plays such a great dead person. He's going to be the
Reanimate
dead person that Richard stops them in their journey on the way to the burial ground.
Gives me a chance to have a little rest.
He'll fall asleep. I'll have to wake him up. He always falls asleep in my acting, but you know, it's okay.
This is some of his best work.
Yes. He'll tell you that so much as well. So anyway, Richard, who is a humpback, and has a limp, and is disformed, and there's a scene where Anne spits in his face, calls him a frog, calls him a beast, calls him and still, he turns her over to his side and makes her think that he is a good person who actually is in love with her. And she leaves, goes away. And also I just wanted to say too, there's an interesting thing, a little historical thing. The difference between direct address, which is what Vaughn just did for you, and monologues, which are actually in the scene that go for a long time. And the direct address is what brilliant Shakespeare did. He talked right to the audience. He lets you know what's going on in their head. And this is a little direct address piece. So Lady Anne has gone away, left the body here, and Richard says, "Was ever woman in this humour wooed? Was ever woman in this humour won? I'll have her! But I will not keep her long. But I that killed her husband and his father, to take her in her heart's extremest hate, with curses in her mouth, tears in her eyes, and nothing but the bleeding witness of her hatred by, having God, her conscience, and these bars against me, and I nothing to back my suit at all, but the plain devil and dissembling looks, and yet to win her all to nothing? Ha! 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 Hath she forgot already that brave Prince Edward her lord, whom I stabbed in my angry mood at Tewkesbury? A sweeter, lovelier gentleman, framed in the prodigality of nature, young, valiant, wise, and no doubt right royal, the spacious world cannot again afford. And she will yet debase her eyes on me, that cropped the golden prime of this sweet prince and made her widow to a woeful bed. On me, whose all not equals Edward's moiety. On me, that halt and am unshapen thus. I do mistake my person all this while. Upon my life, she finds, though I cannot, myself to be a marvelous proper man. Albeit charges to a looking glass, and entertain some score or two of tailors to study fashions to adorn my body. Since I am crept in favor with myself, I will maintain it at some little cost. But first, I'll turn yon fellow in his grave and return lamenting to my love. Shine out, fair sun, till I have bought a glass, that I may see my shadow as I pass. It's over, Jeff. It's okay.
Hey, whoa. Wow, that was really great. So,
That's you.
a lot of people think Shakespeare, one of Shakespeare's earliest play is Titus Andronicus, and I find it interesting. There is a villain, Aaron, in Titus Andronicus, that if you were, let's say you were an artist and you used pens, if Iago is a fine, pointed, finessed utensil, Aaron is an early prototype of Iago with a much broader pen, quite obvious in his
Less subtle.
Less subtle. This is a speech he gives when he's found guilty in court.
Of what? Of murder.
Of murder. Most foul, and he has a few choice words to say before he's let off to be killed. Even now, I curse the day, and yet I think few come within the compass of my curse, wherein I did not some notorious ill as kill a man, or else devise his death, ravish a maid, or plot the way to do it, accuse some innocent, and forswear myself, sense deadly enmity between two friends, make poor men's cattle break their necks, set fire on barns and haystacks in the night, and bid the owners quench them with their tears. Oft have I digged up dead men from their graves and set them upright on their dear friend's door. And even when their sorrows were almost forgot, and on their skins, as on the bark of trees, have I with my knife carved in Roman letters, let not your sorrow die, though I am dead. But I have done 1,000 dreadful things as willingly as one would kill a fly. And nothing grieves me more heartily indeed, but that I cannot do 10,000 more.
Ooh, wow. Oh, wow. Jeez.
Evilest. Little things left for you to, but also know that Shakespeare wrote probably some of the most stunningly beautiful poetry ever written, the sonnets, if you know them. And so we're going to each give you one of our favorite sonnets to wrap things up here. Mine is, I believe it's 116, and to me it's a stunning, because sonnets are tiny little plays within themselves, all done in 14 lines. And they're really exquisitely constructed. They set up a premise, they work out the premise, and then they nail you home with the end of it that ultimately leads back to the very beginning. So this one is about love, of course. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no. It is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although its height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within its bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with its brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
Sonnet 27. Weary with toil, I haste to my bed, the dear repose for limbs with travel tired. But then begins the journey in my head, when body's works expired, for then my thoughts, far from where I abide, intend a zealous pilgrimage to thee, and keep drooping eyelids open wide, looking on darkness which the blind do see, save that my soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view, which like a jewel hung in ghastly night makes black night beauteous and her old face new. Lo thus, by day my limbs, and by night my mind, for thee and for myself no quiet find.
Sonnet number 29. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art, that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, contented lest. Yet in these thoughts, myself almost despising, Happily I think on thee. And then my state, like to the lark of break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings. For then I scorn to change my fate with kings.
Vaughn Armstrong.
So we're going to end this with a beautiful piece that we found that will truly bring it home to you, I think. We do not truly realize, but maybe this will sort of clarify that for you, just how much impact Shakespeare has on our lives today, because every single word in this speech, we use it every day. He wrote it.
If you cannot understand my argument and declare
It's Greek to me.
you are quoting Shakespeare.
If you claim to be more sinned against than sinning, you are quoting Shakespeare.
If you recall your salad days, you are quoting Shakespeare.
If you act more in sorrow than in anger,
If your wish was father to the thought,
If your lost property has vanished into thin air,
you are quoting Shakespeare.
if you ever have refused to budge an inch or suffered from green-eyed jealousy,
If you have played fast and loose, if you have been tongue-tied, a tower of strength, hoodwinked,
or in a pickle,
if you have knitted your brows,
made a virtue of necessity and insisted on fair play,
slept not one wink, stood on ceremony, danced attendance,
on your lord and master,
laughed yourself into stitches at short shrift,
cold comfort,
or too much of a good thing.
if you have seen better days or lived a fool's paradise,
Why, be that as it may,
the more fool you,
or it is a foregone conclusion that
as
you are
luck would have it, quoting Shakespeare. If you think it is early days and clear out bag and baggage,
if you think it is high time and that is the long and short of it,
if you believe that the game is up and that the truth will out,
even if it involves your own flesh and blood,
if you lie low to the crack of doom because you suspect foul play,
if you have set your teeth on edge
at one fell swoop,
without rhyme or reason,
then,
to give the devil his due,
is the truth were known,
or surely you have a tongue in your head,
you are quoting
quoting Shakespeare.
even if you bid me good riddance and send me packing,
If you wish I was dead as a doornail,
if you think I am an eyesore,
a laughing stock,
the devil incarnate,
a stony-hearted villain,
bloody-minded, or a blinking idiot, then,
by Jove,
oh Lord,
tut tut,
for goodness sake,
what the dickens?
but me no buts.
it's all one to me,
For you are quoting Shakespeare.
Thanks for spending some time with us.